So my wife and I have been subscribers to the Pittsburgh Symphony Orchestra for many years, and this year we have upped our subscription, so we are now going to every concert on the season on the subscription. We go on Sunday afternoons, and I thought that what I would do is after each of those concerts provide a short reaction video. It is definitely not a review. The Post Gazette does a pretty good write-up. Can't remember the name of the guy who does it, but it's always pretty good. So if you want a review, check out the Post Gazette. If you want to learn about the music, I'll talk a little bit about the music, but if you want sort of history, go online. I don't know, read the program notes online. What I'm going to do is give reaction as a listener who loves music, who has some background, and kind of give a bit of context for how the music impacted me, how it might impact you. So not a review, more a reaction. So I'll start off. The peak of this concert was the Beethoven Seventh Symphony, but it started with John Adams' Short Ride in a Fast Machine, which is a nice piece and not too long. And so I'll start off by congratulating the programming, whoever made the decisions, because often I find the programs are too long, and having the second half of the concert be just the Beethoven Symphony was perfect. There is sometimes a tendency to feel like you need to put some additional 5 to 10 minute piece ahead of a symphony in the second half, and I absolutely reject that idea. I've occasionally thought about writing a letter to the board of the symphony and saying, I would pay extra. I don't know how much extra, but I would pay extra to go to the concert where just the piece I want to hear is on the program. The worst is when it's a Mahler symphony and they feel like they've got to play like a Mozart concerto just do the right thing. Just have the symphony. So in this case, applaud to the programming. They didn't feel like they had to put an overture or some garbage in the second half. So they started with John Adams, about 5 minutes, and then there was a Schumann violin concerto, which lasted some period of time, but I was asleep throughout it, and I could probably live without. I wasn't asleep, but I nodded off. It seemed a bit monotone to me. It was a lot of notes, and it just kept going. In the program notes, which you can read if you want the details, this apparently was the last piece that Schumann ever wrote, and the concern from his friends, which included the composer Johannes Brahms and the violinist Joachim, who knew, they knew what was going on. They thought the piece was garbage and was the sign of a maddened syphilitic brain. And so they locked it up in the library for 100 years. And maybe it could have stayed there. It's probably worth studying, but I could go without ever hearing it again. It did, on the way home, prompt me to think about Kreisleriana, which is a piece I adore and have never worked on as a pianist. I didn't study it when I was younger and sort of had the time and wherewithal to study it. But it prompted me when I got home to actually order the score. I think I have it in an old anthology, but I ordered the Salabert edition of Kreisleriana, which may be a bit perverse. It's the edition that's edited by Alfred Cortot. So maybe one of my goals for 2024 will be to play my way through Kreisleriana. And then I thought I could write a piece called Kaisleriana, which I won't do. But I like the structure of Kreisleriana. I love the music within it, but I appreciate the structure. Sort of short, kind of connected pieces that fit together into a nice, very narrative piece. I like that. I like that structure. They're not individual preludes or movements, but they are distinct sections that kind of move one to the other in this sort of kaleidoscopic narrative. I like that. I like that structure a lot. So I can't complain too much about hearing the Schumann violin concerto, which was played very well, but I didn't like it. What I did like was Beethoven's Seventh, and Honeck conducted from memory, and very dynamically. I like Honeck. I know that he's been around a while, and there might be a bit of fatigue settling in. But I've always thought that he is a marvelous conductor of the classical repertoire, which I include Mahler in that, with a wonderful sense of the scale of a piece. But he always finds a detail that stands out, that really sounds like the articulation of an idea within the piece that I've never heard anyone do it before. But with him doing it, it sounds absolutely right. He's just got a wonderful sense of the orchestral balance in his conducting. And so he can do things with little grace notes in the horn, for example. I'm thinking of the fourth movement that really are unique. There's a risk with that kind of thing that it can sound affected. And he just walks that balance perfectly. I really like Honeck as a conductor, and for Beethoven's Seventh, it's fantastic. I have the score here. When I got home, I realized when I was a student at Bates, now 35 years ago. Is that right? Yep. Bates College had something called the short term. So we had our 2 semesters, and then in the spring there was a short term. It wasn't a full 10-week semester. I don't remember how long it was. I want to say it was 6 weeks, but that's not short, is it? That's quite long. It might only have been 3 weeks. And when I was 19, 3 weeks seemed like forever. It was a much more relaxed environment, right? A professor would choose a topic that they wanted to focus on for the short term, and it could be anything. I took a short term once where one of the faculty members just taught Beethoven's Symphony, which she could well have done during the semester, but she wanted to focus on it during the short term. I took another one where the composition professor, Bill Matthews, taught a course on the American movie musical. And so every day for 3 weeks, every day we got together and sat in the classroom and watched a movie, and then talked about it, talked about how that means I might be late for a work meeting. But we talked about how the movie is constructed, the narrative, the genre. It was the first study of really of like commedia, of generic, typical characters and how those are fit together and how a good movie musical will play with those expectations. It's wonderful. Anyway, I bought this copy here. These are all 9 of Beethoven's symphonies. For study purposes, you can see that it's quite small. It's the full score, but they're in the study miniature. And we obviously spent a lot of time talking about things like sonata form, right? Very, very classic approach to the classical repertoire. What's the theme? What's the second theme? What's the development? Where's the recapitulation? What's the harmonic highlights of those sections? And I remember even then that the 7th was my favorite. And I love the 4th movement. I love and then right then there's a moment where the horns come in. Just, there's often moments, just measure at a time in music that I feel like I could cut out and listen to forever. A moment, and that's when it's fantastic. Beethoven has a lot of moments like that where the chords are just redolent with meaning in his music. So the seventh, I like the seventh of Mahler as well. I like the balalaika solo. I like the Bruckner seventh. It's my favorite. Is that my favorite? Maybe the ninth. I have to look. I think it's the seventh. Shostakovich 7. There might be a theme here, except Sibelius 5, the fifth. Sibelius 5th Symphony is my favorite. I wrote a short story once where this kind of a pivot point of the story is how many units of time would it take to travel at the speed of light from here to Andromeda, where that unit of time is the duration of the last movement of Sibelius's Fifth Symphony, played in a 1964, I think 64 or 68, recording by Leonard Bernstein with the London Symphony Orchestra. I love that. I love that movement, and I love that symphony. So 77775. I'd have to look through and see whether that holds true. It doesn't really hold true for composers who wrote 50 symphonies. So let's see what my other notes are. I took a few. I might have hit everything already. The Mahler 7th, punchy Beethoven, the accents, I talked about that. I could live without the Schumann, but it did inspire Kreisleriana. Yep. Oh, my last note. Okay, so I'll end on this. They have to change the carpet in the hall. It's a bright red. It looks very much like a sort of a 1950s theatrical carpet with these geometric patterns on it, and it is absolutely disorienting to walk on it, particularly when there's a bit of a crush. And the pathway away from the seat is surprisingly and unnecessarily steep. And I have vestibular problems, but I bet even people who don't find that carpet, who don't have vestibular problems, do find that carpet unnerving. Take it out, put something nice and plain, pretty, I don't know, a nice forest green carpet. I don't know, but it doesn't need to be this garish red with these yellow patterns that are designed to trip people up. I mean, it's as if they have, it's like being in a funhouse with mirrors. So that would be my my second letter. My first letter would be, don't feel like you have to put a short piece of garbage ahead of a big piece at the head of the concert, just because people expect to hear two pieces after each intermission. You don't need to do that. So congratulations for not doing it. And then second, fix that goddamn carpet. Jeez, horrible. Anyway, there you go. Good concert. Fantastic. Next one is the second week in November. We're missing the last weekend in October is our next scheduled concert. That's in 2 weeks, and I'm out of town for that. We both are, so neither of us are going. But then the week after that, we are going. So I'm just going to keep turning these out. I'll put them in as a playlist so that over time they'll gather and accumulate. But please give me a comment if you were at the concert and had a more specific reaction or a different reaction, I'd love to hear it.